I'm Naomi McDougall Jones. I am a storyteller, change maker, and future weaver. Welcome to my Patreon page. Patreon takes that old-timey artist patron model and crowdsources it. On this platform, all sorts of folks can commit to a modest monthly contribution that financially sustains an artist whose work they believe in on an ongoing basis. In exchange, that artist gets to give those supporters special access to perks and various types of front row access to her work and career, providing both sides with a meaningful, reciprocal relationship over time. This video is to invite you to be part of the next leg of my journey. I'm going to start by explaining what the journey has been up until this point, and then we're going to go into what the future of it is going to be. So this whole thing began because I wanted to be an actress from the time I was very small. I got out of school and I was ready to take on the world, and I was auditioning, and I quickly realized that the roles available for women were horrible. So after a couple of years of that, I was having lunch with a fellow actress one day, and we were like, you know what, we're gonna make our own feature film because I can write better roles for women than what I am seeing out in the world. And we did. We scraped together $80,000 by hook and by crook, and we made my first feature film, Imagine I'm Beautiful.
When I moved to New York, and I was really sad and lonely, and then I met Katie.
Imagine I'm Beautiful is a twisty psychological drama about a young woman who moves to New York City and invents a whole new life for herself, and then it takes a very dark turn. The film went on to win 12 awards on the film festival circuit, and it actually got picked up for theatrical release. It got released in 10 cities and theaters. The experience of that film changed my entire life, and from that moment forward, my career took off in two simultaneous and parallel directions. The first thing that happened is I began to realize the depth of the sexism, misogyny, and general discrimination within the film and television industries. With Imagine I'm Beautiful, we had pulled together an all-female creative team to make a film about two complex female characters, which at the time we did not realize was something we were quickly informed of by the industry at large as we set out to make the film. So I just began talking about it and quickly got invited to speak on the International Women in Film circuit because I didn't know enough to realize that I was endangering my career by saying these things out loud. Eventually, that even led to me giving a TED Talk, which then went viral. All of that work led me to a deep understanding of how discrimination happens in Hollywood, and it became a central goal of my life to be part of changing that. One piece of that work has been becoming a founder of the 51 Fund, a private equity fund dedicated to financing films by female filmmakers. I also wrote a book, The Wrong Kind of Women, Inside Our Revolution to Dismantle the Gods of Hollywood. The second thing that happened after making Imagine I'm Beautiful was that I realized I wanted to be a filmmaker for the rest of my life. So I made my second feature film, Bite Me, a subversive romantic comedy about a real-life vampire and the IRS agent who audits her. Once again, we made a film about complex female characters, and we shot the film with a majority female and majority non-white cast and crew. But this time, we decided to attempt a radical experiment to see if we could come up with a sustainable model for distribution for independent film. This took the form of myself, my husband, and a documentary filmmaker moving into an RV and embarking on the joyful vampire tour of America. All of which pretty much brings us up to today. I've spent the last decade as part of really two movements, the parody and film movement and the radical change within the business of film. And all of that has been pretty focused on tearing down the structures that exist, exposing the decay and corruption and discrimination at the core of so very many of them. And that's been necessary to understand the mechanics by which a very large portion of the population has been kept out of power and voice and story. But I see now that there needs to be a shift in the work. It's not enough just to expose what doesn't work. It's time now to turn our attention to figuring out how to build something better. So you may remember that at the beginning, I introduced myself as a future weaver, and that's where this comes in. I believe that in order for this mass shift of human consciousness and behavior to happen, we're going to need future weavers, people like me, who are focused on helping us figure out how to transition out of this oppressive and hierarchical past and into this more beautiful future. this is the moment where my two parallel career tracks come back together. Because by innovating a new, better business of independent film, we have the opportunity to create a system that has inclusivity, kindness, humanity at its very core, and isn't trying to stuff those things in later as an afterthought. So here's where you come in. I would love to be able to bring you along on this journey with me. That's what my Patreon content will be. An in-depth, month-by-month opportunity for me to bring you along on what will likely be quite a wild ride of innovation, exploration, and change. I'm already working on launching my third feature film, Hammond Castle. This one is a magical realism piece about a 7-month pregnant woman who gets locked overnight in a castle full of famous ghosts. With this film, I'm working to push the boundaries of story and the business of story further than I ever have before. Secondly, I'm creating containers, vehicles, and resources for myself and other artists to come together and design, imagine, and invent the future of story and the future business of storytelling. And lastly, I will take the learnings and innovations from those first two parts and use them to help train a new order of storytellers who can take these new modes and new models and make them fly. So what do you think?
How about joining me for a meaningful reciprocal relationship over time with a monthly contribution?
I'm not going to do traditional perk structures because it really matters to me that everyone have access to all of the perks no matter what level they can afford to give at. So instead, as you're considering your dollar amount, I'd just ask you to consider what is the value of my work in the world and how much of that are you willing to personally contribute?
And for full details on what you'll get in that exchange, as well as a peek at my newest upcoming projects, check out my Patreon page.
My level of excitement about what the future of all of this holds is difficult to express, but I do hope you feel it and I hope you'll come be part of it. I can promise you that it's going to be quite an adventure.